Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again are my co-hosts, Richie O'Leary and Alec Krauthamel. Got a few new items to discuss today for everyone. Big Ten Media Day starts tomorrow, and every year the Cleveland.com does an unofficial media Big Ten preseason poll. We'll talk about the results of that poll, who Rutgers is playing on that poll, where they come in. And we'll also give you the latest update on the athletic director search and how things have taken quite the right turn since the last time we spoke. But let's dive right into that Big Ten Media Day poll. I'm going to pull it up and share it here. But long story short, Rutgers is not expected to be that good, according to this poll, which obviously is you take with a grain of salt. Rutgers comes in tied for 13th on this poll, with Penn State and Ohio State being the neck and neck number 1 and number 2 teams. Only 4 teams got a first place vote. It was Penn State getting 11 of the 24 votes. Ohio State got 10. Oregon got 2. Michigan is the other first place vote. I don't know who voted Michigan to be number 1 this year, but we'll talk about that more later. Overall, guys, what are your thoughts on this Media Day poll? Who sticks out at you as somebody who's maybe overranked and underranked on this?
Ooh, overranked. Illinois, underranked. I might say USC. I feel like USC has quietly.
How much weight is Illinois' number being attached to them at the end of last season? I think they finished like 23rd in these polls because they do return a lot of players, but they didn't really impress me a lot. They won a lot of close games last year, as we saw, unfortunately, at SHI. But I don't know. They don't really jump out at me as like a juggernaut.
No, because I mean, Rutgers almost beat them, or should have beat them, to be honest. Yeah. Like, they didn't play well against Northwestern at the end of the year. They only won by 10, which is a very bad Northwestern team, as you can see. I'm trying to think who else was towards the end. They lost to Minnesota. They got pummeled by Oregon. They almost lost the bowl game. They won by 4 against South Carolina. Like, I don't think they're that good. I think they're solid. I think they're a middle-tier Big Ten program, and they could probably get into that, like, 7-8 range, even maybe the 6 range. But 4 just seems outrageous to me. Like, I think that's way too high, especially when, like, a team like Indiana is going to return or has a nice little team with Kurt Signetti again. We know what they did last year. Iowa's always solid. Nebraska with Dylan Raiola is always someone to watch out for. I even think like Minnesota should be above Washington personally. I think Minnesota is going to be a threat this year. But either way, it's just I don't understand the Illinois pick. And then the Michigan first place pick just makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know. It's not much parity from the normal though for the Big Ten. I mean, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon at the very top, and then Michigan's right there, and there's a couple other schools that usually aren't there, but for the most part, it's the same top 3 all over again.
Alec, who jumps out to you as somebody who's overranked and underranked on these this first Media Day poll here?
I'll say Illinois, as I agree that I'm not blown away by them, but I will say it always seems like in the Big Ten there's always a team that's like fairly solid that kind of goes under the radar and then just randomly pops up in the conference's top 5. So I think that could be Illinois this year. Now, if this was like a power ranking of the teams, I'm not sure I would be fully in on that, but I could definitely see them like just kind of doing the same things that they did last year, getting out some close games, things like that. I do remember it took them at least one overtime, maybe multiple, to beat Purdue last year after Purdue staged like a crazy comeback to tie the game. So definitely a little bit of something to watch out for. I could see UCLA being better than the spot that they're at 15, though. Obviously they brought in Nico Yamilava. I hope I didn't butcher that. But they actually closed out last year on a pretty high note. Even after the Rutgers game, they played pretty well after that. So I could see them take a bit of a step up from that 15 spot as well. I guess those are the main ones that kind of stick out to me. I agree that USC might honestly be should be a little bit better. Let's see. Other than that, it seems like, once again, as it always is in the Big Ten, that kind of like middle tier, I'm going to say it's like from Nebraska to UCLA. It could go in any order, so I don't really have a problem with the way it went out. You could really justify any order for those teams. And then Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue is pretty clear, bottom three. And then obviously the top six are pretty clear. And I think Iowa's in a tier of its own, meaning like they're pretty rock solid in that, they're pretty much slated for 8 to 9 wins every year. So I think they're in that tier of their own. So, yeah, not a ton that really stuck out to me. But like I said, I think UCLA could maybe surpass that mark in terms of positively. And then Illinois, I could see kind of randomly popping up in the top 5 in the conference, even though they don't blow us away. Yeah, I mean, looking at the media poll from last year's preseason, Indiana was ranked 17th, which was a miss by I think everybody. I think everyone missed on Indiana. So could we see? I don't think we'll see a jump quite like that from any of these teams, but I'm sure there'll be a couple that bounce way upwards. And then, I mean, Wisconsin was 7th, and we know how that season went. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Wisconsin. It's tough.
Wisconsin is like a team that Rutgers just can't find a way to crack, but are perpetually underachieving at the same time. So I want to put that caveat out there. I think I expected when they brought in Luke Fickell that he was going to, really take that program to the next level, and he's done the total opposite of that. Wisconsin fans aren't happy with how things are going because not only did they lose their longstanding identity, that they're not having success either. So that combination is definitely not a great one in Madison. I think Michigan's just way too high. I don't get the hype on Michigan personally. You're breaking in a true freshman quarterback who, even though he was, an uber superstar level recruit, I just think there's a lot of teams in that. I think Indiana's better than them. I think USC's definitely better than them, and I think teams like Minnesota and Washington are close as well. So I think Michigan's way too high, and whoever ranked Michigan as the number one team in the country or in the conference should really just have their media credentials revoked. That is insane. That is all-time homerism there. I think Penn State too. You got to prove to me that you can actually win big games. James Franklin, I don't know what his record is against top 25 or top 10 teams, and you could say that's rich coming from a Rutgers fan who has the longest losing streak against top 25 teams. But I mean, just looking at them independently, Penn State, they bring a ton back, but they just haven't proven that they can do it. So until they can prove they can win big games, I'm gonna say that they're overrated here because they do play Oregon this year, they do play Penn State this year, or they do play Ohio State this year rather.
They play Rutgers.
They play Rutgers. Let's go down the line and talk about where Rutgers' opponents came in on this poll in order of when they play them. So Iowa came in at number 7 on the preseason poll. Minnesota came in at number 11. Washington came in at number 10. I don't know if this is the case or not, but I think Rutgers might be the only team who's playing all top 4 of the teams in the top 4. Oregon's number 3. Purdue is number 18. Illinois is number 4. Maryland's number 16. Ohio State's number 2. Penn State's number 1. So their schedule is certainly backloaded. They're 3 of their final 4 games are against top 4 opponents on this list. So you got to get your wins early. That's why games like Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, they're just so important to find a way to scrape by some wins early on, because I think we all think they're going to start 3-0. But they're really going to have to make some noise in the early part of their Big Ten schedule in order to become bowl eligible again this year. What else jumped out at you from these poll results that's noteworthy? Or if it's not, we can get into the athletic director stuff.
I wouldn't say the poll results specifically. I know everyone's high on Penn State, and they have a very good roster. Don't get me wrong. But Rutgers is going to have a chance to be that team that can, or the last chance for a team to basically knock them off. Of course, the Big Ten championship, whoever makes that will have a chance to knock them off too. But last game of the regular season, going to be a lot of hype on the line. It's a home game for Rutgers. Maybe if they're healthy, maybe they have a shot to put the nail in Penn State's season, basically. they'll have. I don't know if they'll be able to do it because I think they're a very talented Penn State team, and I guess it really depends on health on both sides by that point. Especially coming off an Ohio State game for Rutgers, which is going to be very, very tough to battle back from. But yeah, I mean, hey, you never know. Last game of the season, maybe a little magic happens. A little Shiano SHI Stadium magic.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's like the last few years, Rutgers has always played Penn State late in the season, and they're just physically worn down by then.
Yep.
And Penn State's just able to use that physical advantage and just completely dominate. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that actually works out. Like you said, Richie, they play Ohio State a week before on the road in Columbus. So that's going to be extra tough. Let's see who Penn State has before that game. Looking at their schedule.
Penn State plays Nebraska the week before.
That could be a tough game.
So Penn State, I'm going to get into a schedule analysis later in the summer. Spoiler, the schedule doesn't break nearly as nicely as it did for Rutgers last year. Rutgers had huge advantages in net rest advantage when they were playing teams coming off byes, things like that. Mm-hmm. This is one of the few examples of Rutgers getting a really good bye situation. Penn State will be playing its 5th game in 5 weeks. When they come to SHI, they'll have a game every single weekend of November leading into that one, and Rutgers will be coming off a bye 2 weeks prior. So Rutgers should be fairly well rested and getting a bunch of new adjustments in if they kind of stick to how they've traditionally done things, where they only really make serious adjustments in the byes or on the bye weeks. And this is the first time I can remember in a long time that Rutgers has had 2 byes in the same season as well. So another thing to keep an eye on.
Well, they had 2 last year.
Did they?
But yeah, the early one after 2 games, and then
that's
after,
right.
After the
USC
game.
You're right. Totally forgot about that. So disregard what I just said.
And I guess looking at I was going to say, looking at the preseason poll from last year. Now I know this obviously means nothing because we saw how the season went last year. You mentioned the team where they play, the teams ranked on who they play, Sorry, I butchered that sentence. Where their opponents rank. Sorry. So just looking at where they ranked last year. So in the preseason poll, they didn't play anyone in the top 5. The highest ranked in the preseason poll they played last year was USC. They played Wisconsin, which was 7. They played Nebraska, which was 8. So they played 6, 7, 8, and then Rutgers themselves was 9. They played 6, 7, 8, 10, which was Washington, 11, which was Maryland, 12, which was Minnesota, 13, which was Illinois, and then 15, 16, and 15 and 16 with UCLA, Michigan State. So schedule does not break it as right for Rutgers this year. And then obviously the preseason poll doesn't really mean anything. But
whoa. They were projected to finish 9th.
They were
9th.
That's true. So and now they're tied for 13th.
Don't say it doesn't mean anything when these guys got the crystal ball. Maybe that one Michigan fan beat writer, basically a fan if you're picking them number 1. Maybe he's got a little inside information. Maybe he knows everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the polls are pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the 2024 media preseason poll doesn't really matter at all. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. It's going to be really tough to see, like it always is, that like middle tier. Like I said, the like Nebraska to UCLA type teams, because they could all go. I could see all of them going 8-4, or I could also see all of them going 4-8. So it's the magic of the Big Ten with 18 teams. You say it in basketball and football too.
The Big Ten really helped Penn State out schedule wise, though. If you look at how their schedule sets up, they have a bye the week before the Oregon game. And they also have a bye the week before the Ohio State game. The powers that be are really trying to set them up for a title run, it seems, in 2025.
Makes sense.
All right, that's all we've got, I believe, on the poll results. Let's talk about the athletic director search. So, a little context for the last episode. We recorded that one, I believe, on Thursday mid-morning, afternoon.
Something like that, yeah.
Decided to wait till the next morning to release the pod, and then by then, Richie broke the news that Brian Lafamina was no longer in contention for the role. So since then, obviously, Lafamina has dropped out, and it's now sounding like they're about to lose their other finalist as well. So talk us through the process of what happened with Lafamina, why he turned the job down, and where things stand with the other finalist.
So Lafamina was basically candidate number one, target number one. He was the guy, one track mind here. Like they were going after him. The BOG loved it. They wanted to get it done even before the president search. They wanted to get all this done, and they just couldn't get it done. He kind of had cold feet at one moment. He wants as much control as possible. And there's some people in the athletic department that don't want to give up too much control. And I get that. But it didn't really play that much of a factor. So everyone blaming that certain someone in the athletic department that's a coach that we all know who it is, stop blaming him because it's not his fault. This was the Board of Governors' fault. They went after one guy. They thought they could land him. They had him locked up, basically. They had the verbal and everything, like, yeah, he's ready to take the job. But you don't offer someone the job unless they're going to take it. And they offered him the job, and then he's like, hold on, wait a second. Let me just double check on everything. He has another offer on the table from I think it's a private equity firm. I'm not entirely sure who it is, what it is, but apparently there's significant money on the table. Rutgers AD job's probably going to pay what? 7 figures, $1 million, probably around there.
Probably around there.
If I had to guess, because that's what other comparable Big Ten AD jobs are paying. He can make so much more in the business world. And the only reason he even considered Rutgers in the first place as the AD job is because he went to Rutgers. He was a swimmer at Rutgers. He goes to football games over here. He loves Rutgers. So that was more of like the Board of Governors, Rutgers in general, kind of tugging on the heartstrings a little bit. Like, hey, come home, help us. Like, you can help us. You could be the guy. And I thought he would have been good for the role, but it is what it is. He turned it down. He has a better job offer elsewhere. Sounds like he's accepting that job offer elsewhere. Hence why he's been removed from the Arctos website and all that other stuff. That being said, candidate number 2, Mike Pissi of Van Wagner, sports marketing. Mike, do you Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said before. It's like tugging on the heartstrings a little bit. It's like, if I told you could be the head football coach of Rutgers, but you have to take a 40% salary decrease compared to your current job, would you do it?
Yeah.
It's like, I love Rutgers. I would love to take the job, but I'm not going to go take a quarter or half of what I'm making currently to go do that. Like I've had people in my life say like, hey, why don't you try to become like an assistant recruiter or like a recruiting analyst or recruiting guy for Rutgers football department? It's like, I know what they make. It's not anything. Like, absolutely not. It's like $40K a year. I give those guys so much credit in the world because it's not just $40K a year. You're working like a dog, basically. Like, you were working 12-hour days to get paid $40K a year. Yeah. It's probably a little more than that now. I think it's like 50 or 60, but it's just not worth it. Like, so it's like the heartstrings thing. It's like, if your university, your alma mater, you love Rutgers, and they want you to be the guy running that athletic department, and you're going to have to take a little bit of a pay cut, maybe a big pay cut in this scenario. I think you have to think long and hard about it, and I think that's why we ended up where we are. And now he doesn't want the job, and now you're kind of screwed. So what are you going to do?
So sorry. The second candidate, Mike Pissi, is now is the job now offered to him? Like, what's going on with the second finalist?
So that's where it gets weird. Pissi was told at one point that he was the number 2 in the race, and that's like, it was kind of obvious. We knew who he was. We've talked about him on the boards so many times at this point. But he basically has set a deadline saying like he wants to have a decision soon because he's not going to be sit here and just dragged around left and right, just waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, he hasn't heard back from Rutgers in a couple days. It sounds like like what? I posted this back on Thursday, I think it was, the Pissi scoop, that he wants a decision in the next couple of days. It's been a couple of days. There's still no decision. It sounds like it's actually going to be a complete reset, and we'll get to that in a second. But Pissi was one of the other top candidates. He was the other finalist. NJ.com mentioned him. We mentioned him, et cetera, et cetera. He wanted the job, but it sounds like they don't want him specifically. Now, I know Pissi has connections to Rutgers. He worked at the Scarlet Art Club. I forget, as like a director or deputy director or something. He worked at Maine as an assistant AD, so he's got some AD experience. And he's also worked at Van Wagner, where they've helped so many different colleges across the country, big names, small names, middle names, to just kind of get sports advertising, sports marketing, et cetera, et cetera. He also worked at Nelligan Sports, and Nelligan Sports was a long-time partnership with Rutgers before they moved over to Learfield, IMG, all that other stuff. So he does have connections to Rutgers. The coaches, some of the coaches there know him. Sounds like he actually had some money backing behind him too, which is what really kind of frustrates a lot of fans, is the fact that he had upwards of like 8 figures ready to go in donations that were going to go towards the NIL, towards the programs, towards who knows what, probably majority of NIL if I had to guess. But so that's not going to happen. It sounds like they're going to have to move on. I think from what we've heard, they're going to restart this search essentially. I know people don't want to hear that. That's basically the last thing you want to hear after it's been a goddamn year. But it sounds like they're going to restart the search. I shouldn't say restart completely, because they're still going to use the same search firm. They have a list of candidates other than those two. So it's kind of like not starting from scratch, but you were like 80, 90% done. And now you're going to go back to like that 60, 70% mark and be like, okay, remember when we vetted these other 7 guys? Let's look into these other 7 guys. So it sucks where Rutgers is right now. And AD search continues for another, I don't know, start of the season, probably, maybe a little later, maybe like by week 3, hopefully. Sounds like it's going to drag into the college football season at least.
Alec, you got any takes you want to fire off regarding the search, how it's going?
Really hot take. This is not ideal. Obviously, not the way that this was supposed to go or anyone wanted to. I think it was kind of obvious. Yeah, I think it was kind of obvious when I forget exactly the timing over the last few days, but when it came out that Pissi had said, I need to know if I'm in this in the next couple of days or I'm out, and it had already been a couple of days after Lafamina had already declined, it seemed like we knew where that one was headed. So because those were kind of like the first 2 concrete names that we had heard, and now it seems like, barring something surprising, they're both kind of out of it. I don't really know where they go next. I mean, I'm sure they're going to keep going after the similar background, like a CEO of athletics type background, who can bring in a lot of donations and it has a lot of connections in the corporate world. I know. I'm sure if they went after Pissi and Lafamina with those 2 backgrounds, I'm sure now that they're kind of pivoting to a new potential person, I'm sure they're going to go after that same kind of background. It's just a matter of who are those people. We don't really know. I mean, I'm sure there's names that people could come up with. I'm not, unfortunately, smart enough to come up with those names, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, because I mean, it took. I'm trying to. We had first heard about Lafamina. I don't remember when, but it was a long time. So a long time into the search, and then obviously we've heard about him for a long time ago. But I don't really know where this goes from here. I have to keep finding some people in the corporate world with some connections to sports, I guess. I don't. I'm kind of at a blank for what the next direction is.
Do you want an easy answer? You just go to every LSU or every SEC like school that and just be like, hey, who's your assistant AD? Who's your assistant AD? Not the assistant Arkansas AD. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh God, yeah. Who knows if that's ever real?
That's not real.
Okay, I figured. Yeah, I mean, I would be really interested if they did go that route, because that would be a big time about face from what they have been doing in the search so far. So I don't know if I would see them do that, if they would go more towards the traditional college athletics ladder type hire.
I don't think so. I think that would probably be their number 2 still, and that's where
now
we've mentioned like a Sean Frazier type makes a lot of sense. I I'd even look into like Kelly Zinn. I don't know if she would leave for an executive AD spot but she's the number 2 at LSU. She was number 1 at West Virginia for a little bit. Like, I don't think she's a bad name. I don't know if she would be a top name, but it's just a name at this point because, like, hell, you don't have anyone at the moment.
Yeah, I would be also interested to see if President Tate himself goes into some like corporate names that he's familiar with or anything like that, kind of like combining the two processes where, looking for someone who, obviously has corporate ties and can be like a CEO type, and then also putting in new president's ties as well. See if there's some kind of in between. Maybe they don't even have a connection with Rutgers and they're from the Tate Rolodex, I guess. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of the frustrating part is, if you basically go back to, square one, we're about to start the academic calendar, or maybe we've already started it for all I know. We've said this a bunch over the last few years. Like, this is the most like consequential year in college athletics in a long time because of the advent of revenue sharing. Like, you want to get on good ground to start this process. And it's not only that we don't have an athletic director, we've shed off so many of the top level people in the athletic department over the last few months. Ryan Pissi, Sean Tucker, who else just left?
I think that's it, I think, right now.
There's been a few other lower level people that have left, but it's just like you're losing all of the top lieutenants along with not having somebody in charge. Like, you're running a bare bones operation right now, and you're expected to kind of like adapt to all these new rules and be able to, do a lot of things that are brand new for everybody. And it just looks terrible who else but Rutgers could have this post vacated for almost a full calendar year? Like, it just doesn't happen anywhere else. So I'm hoping that we can figure this the fuck out, because this is embarrassing.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be talked about this week as much, though. Like, I feel like a lot of, like, in the Rutgers community, yes, like, a lot of people are talking about it. I feel like outside of that, like, the national people don't really give a shit about it. Like, they'll care when they announce a hire, but they don't care, like, how long the hire takes. Like, to the average college football fan or writer or anyone, like, they don't know who Matt Colagiovanni is. Like, they don't care who he is. They're just going to say, yeah, that's the interim guy. For Rutgers fans, it's like, okay, like, it's been a year. It's been over a year. We're probably entering football season by the time they actually announce one. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? So from the inside looking in, it's like, what the hell? From the outside, I don't think it's really that bad of a look, because I don't think many people will even give a shit, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. We've kind of talked about this topic ad nauseum at this point. Is there anything else regarding the athletic director search that either of you guys want to hit on before we head out of here today?
I think Tate is going to have a lot more say in this one. I think from the first go around, it sounded like the Board of Governors just that they wanted to get it done before Tate even got in office. I think now that he's there, I think he's probably going to have a little bit more say. I think he has a lot more connections he can throw out, and people's names, and kind of go from there. And like Alex said, just maybe he has some connections in the business world and can go from there. But because he's worked at several big name universities, South Carolina, LSU. I feel like I'm missing one too, but either way, I think he'll have more say, and we'll see if that ends up adding more candidates to the list, maybe.
Alec, anything to close on here?
I mean, a lot of what Richie said. I am very interested to see where this goes. I agree that I think Tate's going to have a lot more involvement in this one. So interested to see which direction that goes.
I am as well. Hopefully, we can get this resolved before football season. I don't want to have this dragging on, into September, October, whatever. Obviously, you want to make the right hire, but I think they just need to act with some purpose and some kind of timeliness this time. You can't just have an offer sit on the table for 2 months. And I'd heard they'd been courting Lafamina since the fall, so this has been a long process that ultimately didn't work out. But stay tuned. We'll have more on this subject for sure on the boards and in your podcast feeds when we have information. We'll have more also later in the week regarding the Big Ten Media Day. Shiano, I believe, is scheduled to speak tomorrow, right, Rich?
Yeah, it's a little bit later in the day. It's I think it's like 2:45ish, just because of the time difference and all that. It's not in Indiana this year. It's in Las Vegas. Planned on going. It's supposed to be hot as hell. 116, 115 degrees out there. I saw a video of someone's shoe melting on the sidewalk. So I was like, yeah, I talked to the guy, or I shouldn't say we talked to him relatively recently. You actually talked to him, Alec, because you went to the golf event. And it's not like he's going to say anything significant. He's not one of those guys that's going to get a crazy quote out there saying like the Big Ten's better, the SEC sucks. Like he's just going to say, hey, we're going to play our football. We'll see you August 28th. That's essentially what it's going to. Oh, I'm sorry. Chop. There we go. Yeah, it's the same old Schiano. He'll never say anything bad, and it's going to be very basic. And it's just for national media to be like, how do you think your transfer portal haul is? Crazy. We asked him about that in spring. So if you have the night report, you already know exactly basically what he's going to say. And then if you don't have the night report, sign up now. It's only $1. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so depending on when you're watching or listening, they'll be on Tuesday. Shiano's on at 2:45 Eastern. The players, which are Ethan Kaliakmanis, Daryl Jabome, and who's the other one? Ian Strong, are on set at 5 o'clock Eastern. And then Shiano's on the Big Ten Network studio set at 5:15 Eastern. So that's when all that's going down on Tuesday.
Yeah, so we'll probably record something Wednesday morning to talk over what was said from the Rutgers side at Big Ten Media Day. But for me, Alec, and Richie, that's been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.